the national team.
And as we take a look, here is the course once again as to how they are going to be going. And there is the text. So right now they're still on that first leg going from west to east as they approach the first mark. A little bit foggy in the bay here as well.
It's kind of difficult to see the bow numbers on the boats.
Well, we were talking, a moment ago about responsibilities and crew members. What would be the advantage of having, let's say, 10 crew member as opposed to just 4 or 5?
Well, it depends on the size of the boat. Smaller the boat, less crew you would need, generally speaking. It depends on how the equipment is set up on the boat to see, if the boat can be controlled by a crew of 4 or 5, or you need 10 or 12. For an old boat like this, it doesn't really matter how many crew members you have, the one that you see here now. But for the modern speed sailing boats, you need to have optimum crew number, and that just depends on the wind conditions and the length of the boat and the equipment on the boat. I would say probably 5 or 6 would be good for a day like this. Some of the bigger boats would maybe have about 10, maybe 12 people.
You mentioned that the boat that we just saw there a moment ago obviously appears to be an older boat. Would you say that boats today are tremendously faster or better than boats from, let's say, 20, 40 years ago? Or what has technology done for yachting to improve boat speed and efficiency?
There has been a lot of improvement in the hull shape, a lot of experimenting with hull shape, and just recently they have come out with some very good hull shapes that are really fast. But despite that fact, even 100 years ago they had designs that could go almost as fast as the boats, the modern boats of today. For instance, the Melges line of boats that came out years ago, the scows, the E-scows and A-scows and those boats, the design's been out there for almost 100 years, and yet back in those days, boats made out of wood were getting 25 knots, 30 knots, which is almost unheard of for racing of the kind that we see here today.
Wow. And generally, when you have a race like this, I would assume that if one particular boat is so much more efficient than another, that we would see a lot of the boats basically being the same. But in today's race, actually, there really aren't very many boats that are identical. These are almost like snowflakes, where no two are the same.
That's right. I don't see any identical boats. In fact, that's one of the problems in yacht racing, is that when you have a yacht race, you have all these different boats come to race, and you need to figure out a rating system, a handicap rating system that applies to each boat, and that is fair for everyone. And as yachtsmen want to do, they always complain about the rating that they get for the boats. In Asia, we use generally IRC rating. In Korea, we use ORC rating. In Japan, they use ORC rating. Today, we have ORC class of boats in the ORC club class, and we also have the PHRS rating system for the rest of the boats in the open class. PHRS system is used in the U.S. Quite a bit. We do use it in Korea. The Korea Sailing Federation keeps a record of all of the ratings under that system.
And here in the ORC class, our leader continues to be the Sexy Busan.
Mm-hmm. Looks like they have about 8 or 9 people on board.
And as mentioned, we basically have 2 races that are taking place simultaneously right now. The ORC class, as mentioned, being led by this boat here right now, the Sexy Busan. But also, there is an open class race happening simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the difference, of course, is the rating of the boat, whether they have been classified appropriately or not.
Yeah, the open class generally has slower boats, but I do see that on the list of the open class boats here, there are some fast boats. It could be that they did not get the rating certificate on time to register for the race, and so they applied for the open class. The prize money throughout the race for the entire Korea Cup is less for the open class than for the ORC class.
And does it cost money to have your boat rated?
Oh yes, you have to pay a little fee to get your rating done.
Here is the Sexy Busan, still our leader, as we are approaching the first mark. Now, based on the type of boat as well as the course, now keeping in mind that the first leg of this race is going against the wind, and then after that first leg, they're going to have the winds at their back. So we could very well see perhaps a lead change because of this.
Well, right now it seems like that Sexy Busan is doing so well that it's going to be difficult to catch that boat. But for some of the other boats, among those boats, some of the lighter boats, again, hulls that are shaped more like sports boats, quite narrow, long at the waterline. Those boats would have a slight advantage during the reaching parts of courses, which means that the wind is coming from the side or from the stern quarter of the boat. That gives you good speed. In strong winds, some of the boats can plane actually. The hull actually starts to plane a little bit.
Well, the weather, definitely a lot of rain, overcast. Not the most favorable conditions, but still we are continuing on here. This is the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. Jason Lee joined by Mr. Shin Young-shik, and you've actually competed in this race a couple of times. Tell me about your experiences taking part.
Actually, just before coming on into the broadcast studio, I watched a video of the race last year, and I remember, or 2 years ago I should say, and I remember I caught a buoy. I didn't see the long line that was coming sideways out of the turn mark, and I caught a buoy, and my keel got caught in the buoy, and I was stuck there for about 2 or 3 minutes, I think. So I don't have very good memories for this race. They're approaching the first mark now.
And things will definitely speed up as we pass the first mark. As mentioned, the wind, they're sailing into the wind right now, but once our boats pass this first buoy and take essentially a big left turn, they're going to have the winds at their back, going for a backwards M from there on back home.
Yeah, and I hope that the lead boat will think about the possibility that there's that long line that might come out of that buoy. And I know the lead boat has a very long keel, so they should be careful running this buoy.
Let's see what their approach is as they close in on that first mark. This is the Sexy Busan, the race leader, as we have an onboard camera as well, taking a look at the crew members and what they're doing.
It's very important to have teamwork going for you, and it's the skipper's responsibility to make sure that the team clicks. If someone doesn't play their part right, then the boat speed dies, and other boats will pass you by. And there's a lot of yelling sometimes when things go wrong. I generally tend to yell a lot when I'm skippering. But it looks like they're rounding the buoy quite close. We'll see.
Very, very tight, it appears. And as mentioned, we'll see if the line is heading out that way or not. And here's the first turn that they're making at mark number 1.
That's great. They're doing a good job. And looks like they'll be raising their spinnaker with the wind coming from the rear corner of the boat. They might raise a spinnaker here. They got it all set. Spinnaker is a big sail that they raise in front of the boat that looks like a big parachute.
And as we take a look, let's see if they raise the spinnaker or not. What's the ideal angle to be sailing? Do you like to have the wind directly at your back, or is it more advantageous to have the wind coming in from the side, or what sort of an angle or degree?
For a boat of the type that we see, Sexy Busan here, looks like they're not going to raise the spinnaker here because maybe the wind angle is not right for the spinnaker. Actually, the wind is so light that if they raise the spinnaker, sometimes the spinnaker in light winds can act as a brake rather than giving you that speed. So it looks like they might not raise it.
Let's take a look where we are in the race right now. The lead boats have just crossed that first mark. They've made the turn. Here is our second boat making the turn right now. And
That's the
that
Diva.
is the Diva in the open class. So our ORC class leader right now is the Sexy Busan, and the Diva is currently the leader in the open class. Open class leader is skippered by Kim Chung-ho. He's got 8 crew members on board.
He sailed that leg really well. He's not a real fast boat, but he sailed it well if he's the second to turn the mark.
Now we have some digital devices on board here. Are these for weather purposes, or?
No, it gives you the speed, the wind direction, and the apparent wind. That's the wind that the sails feel, the boat feels.
We are taking a look once again. Is this the gust as we are in Yeongil Bay in Pohang on the east side of Korea. This is the inshore race of the 2011 Korea Cup International Yacht Race. Jason Lee joined by Shim Young-sik, and we are going to be back to the continuation of this race in a moment as we see the boats rounding the first mark. Here is the time machine, by the way, but we will be back with the remainder of this race in a moment.
A dynamic yacht race in the East Sea. The longest ocean sailing distance in Korea of 1,200 kilometers. The Korea Cup International Yacht Race 2011. After the Yeongil Bay Shore Race that is taking place at this very moment, the inshore race around Ulung Island and the offshore race from Pohang to Ulung Island and the Dokdo Islands will be held in the East Sea tomorrow. More than 59 teams comprising 226 people from 9 countries will stage an impressive race from Pohang of North Gyeongsang Province to Ulung Island and the Dokdo Islands. Before the races begin tomorrow, let's briefly visit Dokdo, the halfway point of Korea Cup International Yacht Racing.
Jodong is located at Gyeongsang-bukdo, Ulleung-gun. Early morning, a ferry that is headed to Dokdo sails through the cold current. Dokdo, an island that is 37 degrees north latitude and 131 degrees east longitude, is located about 87 kilometers away from Ulleung-do. The official address is Dokdo-ri, Ulleung-up, Ulleung-gun, Gyeongsang-bukdo. Now, this is a Dokdo that has always been part of Korea's territory. Ferries usually land on Dongdo, and here they check the visitor's identity as soon as they arrive. This is because Dokdo is designated as a natural monument. Heavy loads are carried through cable cars because of the steep landform, but people have to use the stairs to climb up. The first thing that comes into view at the peak is the Sodo. It is currently under construction to improve its existing facilities. There are many local residents on Dongdo, which is about 151 meters away from Sodo. At Dokdo, there are welcome guests twice a day. It only takes 1.5 hours to get to Dokdo from the mainland by ferry. There are people who prepare for an exciting journey within the short time period. Today, the scuba divers catch the people's attention. The visitors enjoy their short visit, and it is time for them to leave. The locals left behind return to their everyday business. The Dokdo's busy day ends here. Dokdo, which is assumed to have been formed by volcanic activities 2.5 million to 4.6 million years ago, has been carrying along its history and records. In the late 17th century, fisherman An Youngbok received verification from Japan that Ulleungdo and Dokdo were Joseon's territories. In 1900, the administrative district of Ulleungdo was declared to be Dokdo. In 1952, there was the Presidential Declaration on Sovereignty over the adjacent seas, including Dokdo, and in the next year, the Dokdo Volunteer Garrison was established. In 1981, Chae Jung-duk first moved into the Dokdo as a permanent resident, and in 1982, Dokdo was appointed as the Natural Monument number 336. Since 2005, a part of the island is open to the public and anyone who reports can enter the island. In the future, more and more people will be able to experience Dokdo.
All right, we rejoin the race here. This is Yeongil Bay in Pohang at Bukbu Beach. This is on the east coast of Korea towards the southern side. And our lead boat has just passed the second marker. So as we can see the map here, they're making basically an M shape as they go across the bottom first. They've made that left turn to go up northward. And then just now, the lead boats have made that left turn at the second marker to head in a southwesterly direction. Lead boat currently is the Sexy Busan, but we're taking a look here at the Diva, which is the lead boat in the open class, as we do have an ORC class race and an open class race happening simultaneously here at the 2011 Korea Cup.
It's good to see that the Korean boats are in the lead. In the past, it has always been the Russian boats that were in the lead in a race of this kind. We see that Sexy Busan is in the lead and Diva second, and then the three Russian boats, Ghost and First and Time Machine.
Following slowly behind, here is the Sexy Busan, the lead boat, and once again taking a look at the weather conditions, 24 degrees, 64% humidity with easterly winds, 3 meters per second is the local weather conditions. Now, this is just the inshore race, as the 2011 Korea Cup is not just about this one race. It's actually a series of races that are going to be taking place over the next couple of days. One is this inshore race that's in the shape of an M, but there's also going to be an offshore race, including a trip out to Dokdo, which is one of the main reasons that this race is taking place, I understand.
Yes, Korean sailors, well, actually Dokdo is near and dear to the hearts of Koreans and to Korean sailors as well. And in fact, many Korean sailors really counted an achievement when they can sail out to Dokdo and come back. It's out in the middle of the ocean, it's offshore sailing, and conditions can get wicked at times, and so it is sort of like the ultimate destination for a sailor in Korea. But this race is, has several different legs. The first leg, the offshore leg, would be from Pohang to Ulleungdo. That's a lovely island on the Eastern Sea. And then at Ulleungdo, there's an inshore race in front of Sadong Harbor. When that is over, the following day, then there's a parade out from Ulleungdo to Dokdo. And then finally from Dokdo to Pohang. That's a long leg, 250 kilometers. And when you combine all of the legs, you will have about 545 kilometers, which is a very, very long race. Several days out in the ocean.
Going to be a long few days for these people involved. Once again, we're having a look at the Diva here. They are leading the open class here of this inshore race, as we've talked about. And the Dokdo Islands, I mean, this is clearly one of the main reasons that they've started this race, now in its 4th year, by the way. And one of the things, I mean, obviously there's a lot of publicity towards Dokdo, trying to acknowledge it as Korean territory. And one of the key figures, we've got several celebrities who are actually sponsoring this race and trying to help publicize Dokdo as well.
Yes, one of them is the singer Kim Jang-hoon. He's very well known for donating most of his income to charities. And this time he decided to really promote this Dokdo race, the Korea Cup race. He is sort of the modern-day keeper of Dokdo Island. He's taken out big ads on the Wall Street Journal and other newspapers. And so he's doing a lot to promote this race and to promote the fact that Dokdo belongs to Korea and to no one else.
Certainly almost like a modern-day Robin Hood, except he doesn't steal from anybody. He basically earns his money and donates. I mean, a good portion, like you said, he's very well known in the Korean community for being a famous singer, but also for being a very generous person, donating, like you mentioned. I mean, not even like a small percentage of his earnings, but really a large chunk in most cases.
Yes, he has donated millions and millions of dollars over the years.
And we're taking a look at the spinnaker of the time machine right now. This is one of the Russian boats, and that is just a